interestingly enough, this next movie is the newest movie of the week and lost to last week's movie. This week's it's A Haunting in Venice, the third from Kenneth Branagh that's going through the book series from Agatha Christie, who was kind of played by
Tina Fey.
Tina Fey in this movie.
Yeah.
Look, I like the first one. The second one is goofy. I was really anticipating this one. I did not love it, but Zach, what is your take on the newest mystery thriller horror?
Yeah.
Starring Kenneth Branagh.
A Haunting in Venice, absolutely. So yeah, it returns Kenneth Branagh to the mustache, the twirly mustache he loves to don in these movies as Hercule Poirot, the famed detective. I think the thing that's interesting to me about A Haunting in Venice is that this is the one that it feels like it's sort of like leaning into genre a little bit. As you mentioned, it is kind of a ghost film, a kind of a horror film. And to me, that did freshen it up a little bit. At least it gave it a little bit more perspective, a little bit more beneath just the, you know, Sherlockian detective gets to the bottom of this chamber piece murder mystery. So I don't know. I actually think I enjoyed this one maybe more than the previous two. Definitely more than the last one. Maybe on par with Murder on the Orient Express. It's got, you know, it's got like actors that I like, even if none of them are necessarily doing their best work here. I did find it kind of funny that he's reuniting the Belfast gang with both Jamie Dornan and Jude Hill, the young kid, in this movie.
Stop. The little creepy kid who's always reading books? That's the kid from Belfast?
That's the cute little kid from Belfast.
Ugh, okay.
Jacob Tremblayan Range, I guess.
Okay, sure.
I don't know. It's certainly, I think the movies are not necessarily the most like artfully executed. You know, there are some interesting shots. He loves to throw in a Dutch angle, but I think they end up spending so much time in close-up that they don't necessarily like establish what's going on in scenes where there's like an ensemble or some action, and then they also throw so many names at you without ever really making the characters that distinctive that I do end up like weirdly lost in what feels like a pretty simple murder mystery. So I don't know if it's like, you know, great as like a suspense film, but I at least kind of felt the vibe, at least in this one, with the ghost element underscoring this murder mystery.
I agree with you that it's a much more interesting plot.
Yeah.
But damn, did I not care for any of these characters here, man. The one from the last one, you know, they're not the best actors either, but I remember those characters standing out a lot more than these here. There are characters that make decisions here once you realize like who's doing what, but it's really the other person doing it with them and with and without. There's so much mumbo jumbo happening towards the end of this movie because they're dealing with the spirituality of it. Like we're mentioning it being a horror movie. This is a faith-based film at some point for Poirot, and like my only issue with that is that the ending to the last two already kind of covered that. You know, I don't know if you remember the ending to the second one, but spoiler alert, he has a really big moment where he gets rid of a big feature on his face. That's supposed to be him growing out.
Right.
I don't matter at the beginning of this one, so it's like I don't get the point there. Plus, he relearns the lesson that he already did about moving on and unretiring. So when he unretires yet again, he's just Brett Favreing it. I don't see the character development there. I saw a lot of the characters here having goals that kind of they don't even mesh together. Like Tina Fey's character, I thought had the dumbest motivation, had some of the like dumbest lines given to her. What they do with Michelle Yeoh's character, I thought was embarrassing at times. They had this poor lady pretending to be in a seance, and the way they captured her, like you were saying, in certain shots, just looked terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a COVID thing, right? Maybe the other ones had a much bigger set that they were able to use, and here because of that, I don't know. There's close-ups. I did not care for the wishy-washiness of when is it ghosts and when is it just someone getting duped. And I'm not a big fan of movies using, cutting to something that isn't real, because you have, I don't know, you have to have more of a in a detective story especially, you need to kind of not dupe your audience in a certain way, because then there's no fun in the mystery, for me. So I don't hate it. I think it's an interesting take on them. But I was going to ask you a question that I see Devesh already asked in the live stream. You have a detective with an accent and a mustache and an A-list class. Do you ever think that at some point down the line between Knives Out, this is going to be able to surpass that genre, or be the one on top in these murder mystery movies out there?
I mean, I just think that Kenneth Branagh is not the level of filmmaker that Rian Johnson is.
How is he not, though? Besides these movies, right? And I know someone called him director of Artemis Fowl, which was a terrible diss that I read this past week. He's made good movies.
He is probably one of our foremost adapters of Shakespeare to the big screen.
Yeah.
But even in those films, I feel like there is still like a staginess, a kind of like style of presentation that you can see echoed in his Poirot movies, and they just I don't know if it fits the genre as well as the dynamicism that Rian Johnson brings into it. I think Rian is also just craftier and more subversive, you know. And he with stuff like Poker Face, not even just his Knives Out work, he sort of found a way to modernize but also throw back to the classics in the genre. I don't know, man. Kenneth Branagh is a really fantastic actor. I've never been quite as sold on him as a filmmaker, particularly as a filmmaker who's going to make, you know, something that will blow me away or really surprise me. When his films are good, they're like very solid. I don't want to take that away from him, but I've also never seen a Kenneth Branagh film and felt like, well, that's one of the best films I've ever seen.
He did not feel that after Belfast. I can guarantee that.
That's for sure. Some Oscar voters did. I did not.
But I could see that. I see people mentioning in the chat, you know, when you have one director who's more modern and taking place in this setting, and like you mentioned, being able to also call back the past, he's getting the best of both worlds. Whereas I feel his best casting has been in the first movie. I think it's aged even better, to be honest, with who he cast in the first Murder of the Orient Express and how that plays out, than what he's been doing now. But I don't know. Hopefully in the future, I feel he's going to continue them. That's the one thing I will give this movie. This movie feels like it ends with him going, all right, now I'm really in, guys. I expect one of these every year and a half. So, okay.
As much as I haven't loved any of them, I kind of don't mind. I just think that the chamber piece murder mystery is like a fun genre to play in. And especially if he can do, like, this movie not being the best aside, if he can continue to do this thing where it's like, okay, now it's like a murder mystery, but also a little bit of this. And like, maybe we're going to get, you know, like like White Lotus it or something, go all over the place. I don't know. I think there's like potential to still find interesting things to do here.
Yeah, I like the way he does the location, so I'm looking forward to the next one. I just wish this one hit a little bit better.